John Smith, a proud and patriotic American. John is a proud father, husband, and homeowner, but most importantly, John is an American. John knows, like all of us, that America is the best, most powerful country in the world. But does he know what keeps him and his country so safe? Nuclear arms! No, silly. Nuclear bombs! Nuclear weapons provide a deterrent so that America's enemies will get scared off. But nowadays, some silly people have become scared that nuclear weapons could hurt us too. Calm down, John. What people need to understand is the science and history of nuclear weapons. Because if we don't understand the weapons and act too hastily, you never know what could happen.
This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association.
Nuclear bombs. The question posed today is whether they are one of our nation's most valuable strengths or one of our greatest weaknesses. To answer that question, one needs to understand the bomb and why we felt the need to keep and to use them in the past. Our first question is what makes the nuclear bomb one of the most powerful weapons in the world? To answer that question, we'll have to take a little trip to a laboratory in New Mexico. So, Doctor, what goes into making a nuclear bomb?
Well, you see, we have two main types of nuclear bomb. First, we have the original fission-type bomb, which we used back in World War II and such. Then we have the modern, more powerful thermonuclear bomb, also known as the fusion-type bomb. Now, we all know what uranium is, but we can't use just any old uranium you dig up from the ground. You see, using a process we call enrichment, you take that ordinary uranium and turn it into uranium-235, also known as weapons-grade uranium. Now, we have a sample of the material here, and of course, we will take all the necessary precautions. Lead-lined gloves. Take the lid off of the lead-lined casing. And now we have an example of uranium ore. This is unrefined but still potent, so we do not want to handle it for too long. Now we do have a sample of the enriched uranium-235. Notice its metallic color and much smaller size than the uranium ore. Now I'm going to put this away before one of us here gets sick.
The gun-type bomb is rather simple. You simply take half the amount of what would be the critical mass and smash it against the other half. Now this only works with uranium, but we have other materials at our disposal, such as plutonium. The second type of fission bomb we use is an implosion-type device, which is a sphere of plutonium below critical mass surrounded by explosive charges which detonate at the same time and with equal strength, compressing the plutonium to critical mass and causing a nuclear chain reaction. Then we have the more modern weapons. Early nuclear weapons were rather crude and inefficient, but now we can make something much more powerful. The hydrogen bomb, which uses nuclear fusion instead of fission. To put it simply, a hydrogen bomb works much like our sun, combining hydrogen atoms together into helium in a process called fusion. This creates a massive amount of thermal energy and yes, also creates radiation, but a brief flash instead of the level of radiation caused by conventional nuclear weapons.
Powerful stuff, Doctor. Thank you for your help.
Thank you for having me.
So now that we know the deadly effects of the bomb and the devastation it can cause, we must ask ourselves, why do we bother to keep such a deadly, dangerous weapon around? To answer that question, we have to take another trip. Boston, Massachusetts, one of our nation's educational powerhouses. Today we're here to meet with Professor Patrick Parsons. Hello, Professor.
Good evening.
So I'm here today to talk to you about nuclear weapons.
Well, 1949 can be pinpointed as the point in which nuclear weapons were solidified in the American average life.
This simple year, 4 years after the end of World War II, was when the USSR detonated their first nuclear bomb. Relations, already poor after the failed blockade of Berlin in 1948, only worsened as both superpowers feared that the other would use the bomb, and neither acted in a way that would lower tensions. With the Korean War in the early 50s, Vietnam and the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 60s, and growing paranoia by both sides, neither was willing to relinquish their weapons. Then, in 1980, Ronald Reagan came to the presidency. What seemed like a revival of American strength to some, and tempting the enemy by others, the Reagan administration embraced the Cold War as a battle between good and evil, and increased spending towards the military, specifically in the purchase of nuclear arms, in an attempt to either scare off or prepare for war with the USSR. Though war never came, it was not until 1991, when the Soviet Union disbanded, that tensions dropped. But what of the nuclear weapons? They still cannot be destroyed. With the USSR gone, the numerous new states formed came into the possession of nuclear arms, increasing the chance that a third world anti-American entity would make the mistake to fire a bomb at us. As far as the government and the military were concerned, the threat of nuclear war remained very high.
Thank you for your help, Professor.
Not a problem. Now, if you're interested in more history, I have a good story. Let's keep the camera rolling.
So what does this mean for the future? Will we eliminate nukes, or will we maintain them into the rapidly approaching future? The answer to this can't be known until it happens. But what is known is that when you are forced to make a choice, you'll have all the necessary knowledge to act reasonably. Thank you, and good night.